Hey everybody, this is Blake here, and welcome to my review of Red 2. Now, for some reason, I didn't consider Red, the first one, to be all that great, and I'm not really sure why. I'd say it's at least really good, but it's always confusing for me because I can't think of anything wrong with it. In fact, whenever I think of everything about Red, I'm always very positive. It had very energetic and exciting action sequences. It had a lot of great comedy, which included, really funny dialogue, and there was a certain quirkiness to the whole project that you don't usually see in action films. The characters were all very interesting, primarily because they're being played by spectacular actors who had a lot of fun with their roles, and all of them had superb chemistry. So it always baffled me why I don't consider Red to be a classic action flick, even though I do believe that it is a good one. But when I heard that they were making a Red 2, I immediately groaned. It was not necessary. To me, a big part of the joke of the first film was these people were all too old to be action stars, yet that wasn't stopping them from being action stars. Sort of like the Expendables, but they're really playing up the age thing. So it seemed unnecessary, but I went along with it. After all, I liked the first film enough. Of course I'd see a Red 2, even if it did suck. But oddly, I never saw any of the trailers for this movie. They'd never played it whenever I'd go to the theaters, and because I don't watch a lot of TV, and whenever I do, I usually fast forward through the commercials, I never saw any of the TV spots. My dad assures me that there were TV spots for this, so I thought that was really strange, and that really concerned me because it showed the studios didn't have a whole lot of faith in the project. And then when it was released, the reviews were mostly unenthusiastic, so my expectations plummeted. But I went and saw it anyway, primarily because I was going to the movies with my dad, and he really wanted to see it because he loved the first one. So is it good? Is it bad? You know what? It was actually a lot better than I expected. I'd even say that, yeah, I did like it. It's not like Lone Ranger or White House Down, where, yeah, my low expectations made both of those experiences more tolerable. This one was more than tolerable. I actually enjoyed myself. Once again, the action is very energetic. It's very well shot. It's very exciting. But at the same time, there aren't as many standout moments. For example, the first one had that scene where John Malkovich uses a handgun to blow up a woman with a rocket launcher, even though she was able to fire first. That scene was kind of ridiculous, but at the same time it was really, really cool. This film doesn't have any scenes like that. In fact, whenever it does become over the top in the same kind of way, I did just think it was a bit too absurd. It wasn't as cool as what we got in the first one, but still the action was plentiful, and I thought it was really well choreographed. My favorite scenes were actually the fight scenes, which involved the Korean guy. I can't think of his name. I know him from I Saw the Devil, a great Korean thriller. You probably know him as the Asian dude from the G.I. Joe movies. But he has some real good techniques, and it was fun seeing him fight whoever, even if it made no sense how he could take on a bunch of cops with guns, and why aren't they firing at him? But it was still, that was pretty cool. The comedy, once again, I love the dialogue. I love the interactions between all the characters. Everybody has such just wonderful chemistry. I love seeing them interact. A lot of good facial expressions and just reactions. Bruce Willis, this is probably one of his better roles in the last 5 years, probably longer, because he's both the straight man, but at the same time he didn't totally bore me. I thought, he is actually trying to act in this movie, and he does have some comedic timing, but his best parts are just him being the relatively normal guy compared to the crazy people he surrounded himself with. Otherwise, John Malkovich and Helen Mirren, they're just as good as they were before. Same with the other girl, I can't think of her name right now. And then there's also a really big cast here. You have was it Neil McDonough? I doubt I'm pronouncing his name right, but he's in a bunch of movies. You definitely recognize him. Anthony Hopkins, once again, the Asian guy, and a lot of people you recognize by face if you don't recognize them by name. And everybody seems to have quite a bit to do, so it's not like any of them are slumming it. They're all having a lot of fun with their roles, and I even though I did think that there were maybe too many characters. Oh yeah, Catherine Zeta-Jones is also in this. Even though I thought there were too many characters, they all had quite a bit to do. So yeah, I love the comedy, I love the action, or at least I really liked the comedy and really liked the action. Where I think this film struggled though was with the plot, and that might be why the critics did not care for this one as much. For one, there's just too much going on. There's too many antagonists. You have once again, Neil McDonough, I'm probably not pronouncing his name right. You know, he's the first one they introduce, and he's hunting them. And you have the Asian guy, he's hunting them. And then Catherine Zeta-Jones, she's kind of playing the character. You don't know if she's going to be good or you don't know if she's going to be bad. But she's definitely playing that antagonistic role throughout at least most of the movie, if not the entire movie. And then there's more characters being thrown in who are their enemies. And it's maybe a bit too much. You know, some of them will turn out to be good, others will turn out to be bad, others are just red herrings for the real main villains. Yeah, so maybe the story was a bit too ambitious for its own good, but at its core, it's a relatively simple action story. They're trying to find a nuclear bomb. That's really what it boils down to, but they convoluted it a bit much. There are also the way the narrative kind of runs, which I believe was what they did in the first film, but they did it better in the first film, is that there's a segment where they're trying to infiltrate something, whether it's an insane asylum or they're trying to find somebody, whatever. And then that loosely ties into the overall overarching story. Alright, that's fine, except most of these scenes are just they're too far-fetched. They get through certain things too easily, and I don't know why they do certain things. That you have to really buy a lot of the stuff they do, and I just couldn't. The first film did have a few moments that, yeah, you have to, you know, suspend disbelief, but I could generally just go along with it. This film, I kept second-guessing what was going on in the story because it was just too absurd. But yeah, even though the story wasn't all that great, I did think it brought back everything I liked about the first one. I liked the action, liked the comedy, liked the characters, and I liked the actors portraying the characters. And that's really what it comes down to. That's what you're supposed to enjoy about this movie. So is it flawed? Absolutely. But at the same time, I did think it was a worthy sequel to the first film. That's pretty much all I have to say. I did not do a written review, but I've done written reviews of Mama, Dead Sushi, The Men Who Tread on the Tiger's Tail, and The Kid with the Golden Arm, and I'm sure I've done other films too, so check those out. Be sure to follow me on Twitter. Would I recommend that you see this in theaters? Yeah, if you liked the first one. If you didn't like the first one, then don't bother with this one at all. If you were kind of just lukewarm about the first one, then maybe check this one out on DVD. But that's just really all I have to say. This video is probably pretty short. Where am I out on critiquing the critics? I got 2 minutes of it fully edited and 2/3 of the project fully shot. So I'm actually moving quicker than I would have expected, and I do plan for a release next week. I'm actually going to try to get it done by Tuesday, just so I can get it done before the 5th year anniversary of That Guy with the Glasses is released, because everybody's going to be busy watching that, but we'll just have to see. So that's all. I'll see you guys later. Oh yeah, by the way, I do plan on watching The Conjuring this weekend too, so hopefully tomorrow or the next day, although I probably won't be able to get a video review done until like Monday, but I'll have a written review done either tomorrow or Sunday. So, bye again.